We gotta talk about the Avengers Endgame footage that was at CinemaCon. We're gonna break that down. Plus, Joe Russo teases Secret Wars in the future of the MCU again.
It's like the news, but for nerds. Subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Today's shout out goes to Craig Pendergrass. Indeed, the gardener was the person that Thanos defeated to get the time gem in the comics. We'll do another nerd card question at the end of this video. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm, of course, Josh. This is the Den of Nerds. We got a juicy one for you today. Real quick, too, have you guys seen these ridiculous stories about people spending insane amounts of monies on Avengers Endgame tickets? There's literally tickets for in Manhattan for over $9,000, and they have actual bids on them. It's absolutely insanity. I hope you got your tickets. Please don't spend all that money on tickets. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, getting into the footage, indeed there was some stuff shown at CinemaCon yesterday, and obviously that footage has not been released to the public, but people that were there have described it. This is running on all sorts of different websites and stuff, so we have more footage to talk about. So let's break this down, go through what was described, and then we'll talk about what it means. Basically, this is an extended scene of the footage that the shareholders were shown by Bob Iger a couple of weeks ago. So it's all about this scene at the beginning of the film, seemingly at the Avengers facility, where they are deciding whether or not to just go right after Thanos. The CinemaCon footage begins with Captain Marvel walking out. Captain America then asks, "Where are you going?" She says, "To kill Thanos." Then Black Widow steps up and says, "We usually work as a team." Captain America says, "I know your territory is up there, but this is our fight too. How do you plan on finding him? Do you know where he is?" Captain Marvel then answers, "I know some people who might." Nebula then comes into the room and says that, you don't have to waste your time. She knows where he is at. She talks about her upbringing, being tortured by Thanos, and how Thanos would always talk about retiring to the garden. Rhodey then jokes about them having a retirement plan. Natasha then says, "We owe it to everybody in this room to give it a try." Banner's really skeptical. He's talking about how they're going in underhanded, and he asks what would be different this time. To which Captain Marvel replies, "This time you'll have me." Apparently then Rhodey goes in on her, saying basically that everybody in this room is about that superhero life and where the heck have you been? She then replies that she's been off protecting planets that are not lucky enough to have Avengers. Then we get the shot of Thor standing up and summoning Stormbreaker, like right next to her, and she doesn't flinch, and he's like, "I like this one." That we've seen in the trailers. Then Captain America says, "Let's go get this son of a bitch," and it cuts to the shots of them in the Benatar. Then we get that shot of Rocket asking who has not been into space. People raise their hand, and he says, "Don't puke in my ship." End scene. Okay, so this is pretty crazy. Let's break this down. Obviously, the newest thing that we have not heard from the previous explanations of this footage is the fact that Captain America says, "Let's go get this son of a bitch." I mean, that's crazy. That really ties it together. Kind of seems like they're definitely gonna go after Thanos early on in the film. Or are they? Despite all the evidence suggesting that they're gonna do this, my personal theory here is that actually Tony will step into the room at that point and be like, "Nah, guys, we're not doing that. Here's the actual plan." And he'll sort of talk some sense into them. However, I really can't say why I feel this way other than just my gut is telling me. I mean, all the evidence is really suggesting that they are going to go fight Thanos very early on in this movie. And actually, speaking of that possibility, we are working on a video. I actually spoke to executive producer Al Schuler last night. We're sort of changing up the videos that we were going to release before Endgame. The next big one that's coming out is how Thanos could potentially die in the very first part of the film. Pretty crazy. Keep an eye out for that. Also, let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this? Like, are they really going to fight Thanos? I mean, it really seems like that's what they're going to do. These guys, without Tony, are going to go fight Thanos. And I mean, what do you think is going to happen in that fight? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, let's get into the stuff that Joe Russo said about Secret Wars. If you've been watching the channel for some time, you know I'm a huge fan of the theory that Secret Wars will indeed be the next big event film for Marvel. And Joe Russo's been teasing this for quite some time, but he just did it again. In an interview with Indian media yesterday, he was asked several questions all about the MCU, Avengers Endgame, so many crazy things, but he was asked specifically about Marvel acquiring the rights to the Fox characters like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Joe basically said they're 100% going to be doing films and stories like that. He hasn't talked specifically to Feige about how they're going to do it, but you don't acquire the Fantastic Four and the X-Men without putting those stories out there for people. He then kind of talked about event films. The interviewer was asking about Avengers vs. X-Men, that big event, and Russo was basically explaining that, yeah, they keep having to up the ante when it comes to these events. So whatever the next one will be, it's going to be even bigger than Endgame and Infinity War because they'll have all of these new characters. He then says he's joked with them about saying the only film that would bring him back would be a version of Secret Wars. Now, it's really crazy if you read between the lines here and think about how he's answered this question in the past. It is so clear that this is a plan at Marvel Studios, at the very least with the Russos, possibly with a lot of other producers like Feige himself. I mean, think about it. He specifically asked about Avengers vs. X-Men. He then talks about how event films do need to just get bigger and bigger, and then he talks about Secret Wars. This is all in the context of the Fox properties. I mean, and this is exactly the way he did it before. When he and his brother were talking about Secret Wars in the past interview, it was a similar question, and this is how he answered. And so maybe I've just got my tinfoil hat, but I'm telling you guys, this is just another sign that Secret Wars is indeed going to be the next big event film, possibly what is the overarching thing that is happening and driving plot in the next few phases of the MCU. And let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. Now let's check the nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know what famous Avenger was revealed to be in charge of the Black Swans during the Time Runs Out event that led up to the Jonathan Hickman Secret War. The alias of the character was Rabam Allah, but it ended up being a character we're very familiar with. What Marvel character was it? As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.